Old man doing a podcast. Real weirdos. We have English degrees. Real weirdos. We talk about movies for way too goddamn long. Welcome back to the Reel Weirdos. I am Jesse Ketman, and as always, I'm joined by Jeff Casino and Alex Abear. What's up, gentlemen?
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone.
And today we're talking about Snatch, which is an old favorite of Jeff and I's, at least. I'm not sure what Alex's history with it is. But it's from the year 2000, directed by Guy Ritchie. And it's a wild, fun, stylish black comedy. I feel like it can almost be described as a comedy of errors. It centers around this huge number of characters with intersecting plot lines, trying to get their hands on this massive diamond. It's violent as hell, raunchy. It doesn't have much to say about anything. It's not a deep movie, but if you have a certain kind of personality, I think you'll be smiling the whole time watching this. The actors and dialogue are fantastic. You know, this is a movie I watched like all the time when I was a teenager, and I hadn't seen it in like a decade. So it was like rediscovering like a song you used to listen to or something. And it's like, you know, all the words and you're not sure if it's going to be as good as you remember. And it's really gratifying when it is. I was like, this is just like a comfy blanket of a movie because of my familiarity. It has this really strong nostalgia factor. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Jeff, you chose Snatch.
Yes, I
Tell
did.
us why.
Snatch is just, it's a movie that's so fun to watch. Kind of like what you were saying about like having a smile on your face the whole time you're watching it. It's a movie that has a special place in my heart for me because when I was a teenager, I watched it in a very particular circumstance. I was just staying the night at a friend's house, and it was one of those things where you're at a friend's house at the night and you're bored and they're asleep. They go to bed at like 8 or 9. And so I was just like sat on their floor and I found this movie like on top of their PlayStation. And I was like, oh, what's this movie? And I just popped it in the PlayStation DVD player. And I just watched it twice in a row. It was the only other movie I've encored in my life besides Macbeth. I watched it twice in a row, and I was, probably 14, 15 at the time, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with all the characters. I loved the way that the plot kind of came together, and it's a movie that I think is good to watch at that age because the plot is simple enough to where when it all comes together, it's almost like a fun aha moment that you feel satisfied with. And I think that's just indicative of Guy Ritchie's particular writing style. He's very cut into this format of this kind of intersecting plot line, but we'll get into that. But mostly I chose it because it's just a movie that I felt shaped my view of looking into the plot, looking into the characters, falling in love with characters and trying to mimic them. And so it's just kind of a fun movie that has something to offer everyone.
Had you already like started to develop like Brad Pitt as your favorite actor before this movie, or
I think I had seen Fight Club before this movie.
Oh, okay.
So I'm pretty sure because Fight Club was like I had seen other Brad Pitt movies, but Fight Club was my first Brad Pitt movie. I was like, oh man, I really like this guy. Like, this guy's fun. And
Oh, he's fun in this movie, man.
yeah, exactly. And like, so I think I saw him in this
Blue
movie.
Boys.
I think I saw him in this movie, and this is when I really was like, oh, this guy can like immerse himself in a role, and that's why I really liked him because he was such a great character actor.
You can like smell him in this movie as
Yes.
Mickey the pikey.
Oh god.
I love like he didn't shower very much during production, just to like be the character. And someone joked, I think it was Jason Fleming joked that Brad Pitt's trailer toward the end of filming was so disgusting and uninhabitable that I don't know, like this is gonna get Amnesty International to come clean it up. Some joke.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. He also couldn't do a British accent. They originally wanted him to be kind of like a South Londoner, but he couldn't do a British accent very well. But he could do an Irish accent okay. So they were like, okay, we'll just make him into like a pikey. And apologies to anyone if that is still a derogatory reference.
Well, that's how they refer
towards
to them in the
Irish
film.
nomadic people. I have no idea. We're from California, so we're just saying it in the context of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Should we describe the plot of Snatch?
I mean, it's a little difficult, but I mean, I guess we could go into like I think the basics at least like the overarching plot.
Yeah, I did, but I did it very quickly
I think we
and
go
broadly.
a little more, into it.
So there's this diamond that is stolen by Benicio del Toro, and who's dressed as a rabbi, which is fun.
In a fantastically funny opening scene.
Yeah.
One of the best opening scenes in a movie.
Basically, like, it gets taken from him, and you have all of these different sets of characters that the film follows. They're almost all of them are trying to get the diamond or end up like embroiled in this weird little plot with its twists and turns and hilariousness. Simultaneous, you have Jason Statham as like a boxing promoter, and he's trying to do a thing and gets embroiled in another thing.
This is a great plot synopsis.
I know. I didn't write one because it's weird. It's straightforward in a sense. Like, you always understand what's happening. It's not an obtuse movie, but it is like it's definitely within the post Pulp Fiction world, right?
Oh yeah.
Where you have all of these different narratives happening that have an intersectionality later down the line. That's not the only way that it's Tarantino-ish with the cutting. Yeah. But also like the snappy dialogue, and you have these gangster characters who are just like having conversations, and like the dialogue in this movie is hilarious.
Yes, Guy Ritchie's the writer, and so he very much spends a lot of time on creating these quick-witted, kind of cool, edgy characters, and I think that attracts a particular type of audience member to this movie that can be a little distasteful. But Alex, what did you think of Snatch?
So I loved it when I was younger. I loved the first two films, I think, in the Guy Ritchie like universe, Lock, Stock, and this one. And rewatching it now, I loved it still. I think it's a great movie. I think you guys are all like spot on. I would say a good adjective to describe it is not like complicated or complex, but clever and cheeky. And
cheeky's good.
It makes you feel clever when you watch his movies, at least these two movies. Like, and if anyone can get through this movie without trying to mimic at least one of the British accents, then there's a problem with you, because it's just so fun. Like, just the phonetic quality of the dialogue is fun, regardless of what they're saying. Yeah, I actually think that this movie might be his best movie. I know we're not talking about Guy Ritchie in general, but I think this was like the moment where like the universe kind of like fell into place for him. I don't know. It's cleaner in my opinion than Lock, Stock. Has some of the same like vibes as far as the comedy of errors thing, but I think he really like hit the nail on the head with this one.
So you think it's better than Swept Away starring Madonna?
I was waiting for it.
I mean, that one's just like implied. It's just implied that one is.
I was waiting for when Swept Away was going to come in.
I mean, I had to, right? He went from Snatch, which is like this really cool, unique, witty, stylish thing, to like a fuck awful movie starring Madonna.
Well, when you're married to her, I think there's a little bit of a requirement to do her shitty movies.
Yeah, maybe.
God,
I don't know. Thankfully, I'm not married to Madonna.
Snatch to me is such a great representation of a director falling into their style, and Guy Ritchie's style is unique to him. He does take a little bit, I think, from Tarantino. I think he takes a little bit from some earlier directors that I can't think of right now off the top of my head. But there's a lot of little nods, like the Reservoir Dogs nod in the beginning.
Scorsese, maybe.
Yeah, so maybe a little Scorsese. He just likes to write these fun British crime dramas, and I think that is unique because we see the American crime drama a lot. That's very framed in our pop culture as this pinnacle of a particular type of narrative. The Goodfellas, all the movies I love so much, and I find that these movies are in that same, not in the same realm as far as like quality of filmmaker, But I find these movies to be fun takes on the British crime world. Now, obviously, the British crime world is not this like funny little clown circus that all these guys are. It's obviously a very serious place, just like any other crime world. But I think that to turn a lens on the serious and give it this funny, unique twist to it that Guy Ritchie does so well is so indicative of a great director's style. And I do believe he is a good director. Now, it's hard to say that when he's written so many kind of meh movies. I mean, I guess the Sherlock Holmes movies are okay. Lock, Stock, and Snatch. I think Revolver is probably his worst of his. I consider Lock, Stock, Snatch, Revolver, and Rock and Rolla to be his like quintessential four of this style of movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen a great amount of his movies. I've seen the first two, of course. I've seen the Sherlock ones, and that might be it. I definitely have not seen Aladdin starring Will Smith. I will never watch that, but he's made some other movies recently too that I don't know too much about them, but I think that they're like sort of ensemble crime comedies mostly. So he might be still trying to like rekindle the magic of Snatch. I couldn't say for sure. But I like your point about the crime thing and like the characters that fit into it. Because most of the characters in this movie are not good people. In fact, most of them are pretty awful.
Yeah, they're all murderers and thieves.
Yeah, but because of the strength of the performances and all these great character actors and this witty, snappy Cockney dialogue, I love each and every character. You got Jason Statham as Turkish, Benicio del Toro as Frankie Four Fingers. You got Dennis Farina in there as Cousin Avi, Vinnie Jones as Bullet Tooth Tony. And, of course, Brad Pitt is Mickey the Pikey. And, like, just on a side note, I love it when movies have names like this.
Nicknames.
You know what I mean? These underground mobster-type nicknames. Frankie Four Fingers, hey, Jimmy the Hat, you know?
Jimmy the Hat.
Boris the Blade.
It warms my heart, and I don't know why.
It does, because it kind of... It's almost like putting a diminutive E at the end of a name when you're like Frankie Four Fingers. You know, it infantilizes the fact that this is a criminal. The fact that just in the previous scene you saw them like violently stick up a jewel, like a diamond, I guess, processing place in Antwerp, and then they go right into these funny little characters. And me and Jesse were talking prior to warming up the mics about how this is one of the most quotable movies. It's so hard to not take the little like one-liners, to the point where this movie is quoted in a lot of British electronic music, like early jungle, dubstep, D&B.
Samples
use
too,
a lot of they'd use the Nemesis drop constantly. They use the Muhammad Ahmad, Bruce Lee. They'd use the in the words of the Virgin Mary, come again. Like, they use all like the great lines.
Do you guys have favorite quotes?
Probably in the words of the Virgin Mary, come again is one of my favorite lines. That makes me laugh every time because the delivery is so on point. The Germans, the whole the Germans like through line.
Quick, Tommy, before the Germans get
because
here.
At the time, what is his name? Sorry, I am blanking.
Ben Affleck.
The actor who plays Tommy.
Oh.
He's great. Where is he?
He's really good, yeah.
Stephen Graham.
Yeah, Stephen Graham. He was at the time filming Band of Brothers. And that was Jason Statham's little like poke at the fact that he was filming a World War II movie at the time, was he threw in the improv, the little the Germans lines and like peppered them into the movie.
Yeah. Anytime people are talking about pikeys, I know they're being racist, but it's like, it's a world I'm not from, and it's just hilarious to me. And I love everything to do with the pikeys and Brad Pitt specifically. Do you guys have a favorite character in the film?
Oh man.
It's hard, right?
Go ahead, Alex. I'll think about it.
Damn.
I know it's hard.
Honestly, I think that Boris is just like a hilarious character who he's like impervious, you know, and like the amount that it takes to like spoilers, that it takes to, how do I say, defeat him I think
Vinny
it's
Jones
such a
pumps like
perfect word.
2 rounds of ammo into him.
Oh,
He takes a
with
clip and a
Desert
half of
Eagle.
Desert Eagle ammo.
Yeah.
This is a very violent movie, by the way, but it most of the violence takes place off screen.
There's a lot of off-screen violence. There's a lot of off-screen like blood splatter,
Yeah,
but like not much actual like. There's no gore in this movie.
right. But I interrupted you, Alex. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say I do actually really like Bricktop. I
I
think that
love Bricktop. That
he's
actor
fucking
just
hilarious.
nails it. Nails this like creepy, slimy guy with these gross teeth. There's this little line like, "You want sugar? No thanks, Turkish. I'm
Yeah.
sweet enough."
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got these like long yellow teeth. Yeah, he plays this villain beautifully. This character that is an unstoppable force. This like that. I love the Bricktop because there's many scenes that show how quickly he dispatches life and how he feeds them to pigs. Mm-hmm. And
Yes.
it's this process of like this man is unstoppable.
Do you know what nemesis means? A righteous infliction of retribution manifested by an appropriate agent. Personified in this case by an horrible cunt. Me.
He has these great lines and he has this great just like palpable demeanor to him that you can tell like this man means business. I'd say if I had a favorite though, it's Bullet-Tooth Tony.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Vinny
Yeah,
Jones
Bullet-Tooth
is
Tony
legend.
is my favorite.
He's great.
He's just got this cute, I would say, this like cute, childlike energy to his fact that he's like the most deadly man probably in the movie. Like he's like slamming this dude's head in the door and the phone rings and Madonna's Lucky Star is playing, which he had to pay $1 million to license the rights to. And he's
What?
slamming the dude's head in the door, which is the producer at the time. And he the phone rings and he leans over and he's like, "Bonjour." Like I just love like that kind of like demeanor of him. And
So wait, this movie cost $6 million. You're telling me a sixth of it was for that
yep,
song?
he spent $1 million to
I did
license the
read
rights of
that,
Lucky
but
Star.
I was like, that's
But then he
crazy.
dated her, right?
Well, he was married to Madonna, but this
Oh,
was,
when he
I
made
believe,
this one too? Okay. I thought maybe
I don't
that
know if he
his
was
way
married
in.
to her yet, but
I don't think that
I
he
just
was
don't
yet.
know.
Yeah, but yeah, that was one thing I was reading about is they spent a huge portion of the budget just to license Lucky Star.
God, that's hilarious.
And yeah, it's just he's a fun character, and like I mean, this movie is not like a centerpiece of cinematography, but there is some fun camera angles. I especially love the one where Tony is sitting with the twins on either side of him, and it's shot real low, and it kind of makes him look like this titan, like almost like a statuesque man, and then they like reverse shot to Avi and Doug the Head, and they're like kind of the shot from above, and they look kind of small. Like I just kind of love. There's some fun camera work. Nothing super.
It's not Paul Thomas Anderson, you know? Yeah, it's more about the editing and stuff. But yeah, I like the security camera pan in the beginning where you trace them throughout the building as it just goes to these different security cameras.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Another little thing I liked was when Cousin Avi flies, it just has these like boom, 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 three little cuts. You see him like get on the plane, take a drink, boom, you're in New York or you're in, London. And he's like, Cousin Avi, like right after talking to him on the phone. And it's this really economic way of showing a character move from a location, and it fits the pacing, the bam bam pacing of the movie. Edgar Wright does this too in his movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like sit down and shut up, you bald fat fuck. Like there's just like these like the characters are so fun, and I mean we went over the plot, but yeah, basically like this diamond is trading hands throughout the movie, and Guy Ritchie's kind of unique, I guess we can call it his unique thing, his Tarantino, the Tarantino start at the back end of the movie. His thing is that he has intersecting plot lines. So you don't know that every character has something to do with the MacGuffin of the movie, which is this diamond. but you know eventually it will lead to that point. And the fun of the movie is watching it get there and seeing how these characters all start to slowly intersect. And Guy Ritchie has always a unique moment, at least he does in Lock, Stock, and in this movie, where all these characters who have no idea about each other slowly have one scene where they interact and then disperse again.
Yeah, and everyone's a goofball too. We called it a comedy of errors, and it totally is. Like,
Yes.
everybody bungles everything.
Oh yeah.
Just endlessly.
Nobody's good at their job, except maybe I guess you could say Bricktop, but I guess at the end, Mickey gets the one over on him. Spoilers, But so Turkish is a unlicensed boxer, so Mickey becomes Mickey in a caravan trade gone wrong. Turkish's best boxer is knocked out, and Mickey is a one-punch machine who has to take his place because Bricktop has licensed this boxer from Turkish to fight in a fight. And Bricktop, if he licensed one of your boxers, he owns you. And so it's kind of all of them trying to get out of each other's grasp. And it's such a fun little plot. And Brad Pitt does this great... I mean, I guess we can talk about Brad Pitt now. Doing this great voice. This great accent that's so unique to this movie that everyone can really tell. Like, Pikey is a little reminiscent of this, but this is so exaggerated.
Oh yeah.
You like dags?
Dags.
Dags?
Dags.
Oh yeah, I like dogs.
What do I want a caravan with no fucking wheels?
The blue one.
Yeah, his accent is hilarious. It's I read that it was kind of a play on the fact that people complained that they couldn't understand what was happening in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like ultra Cockney, that movie.
Yep.
So Guy Ritchie was just like, oh, well, let's just write a character who people in the movie can't even understand.
It's funny because the more you watch it, the more you understand. Sorry, Alex, my fault.
Oh no, you're good. I was gonna say, I don't know if we've talked about Soul or Tyrone or Vinny.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a fun plot line.
I think those three guys are like, there's something about them that I feel like they're not like the anchor in any way of the movie, but they like really help. Speaking on the editing and the quick editing, when they interact with Bullet Tooth Tony and like the gun, like, you have replica written on the side of your gun.
Yeah. I know.
Like that whole cut thing. I was just thinking about my favorite quote while you guys were talking, and it probably is like I don't want this dog drooling over my seats. They're like, it's a stolen car.
I don't want this dog
Tyrone.
dribbling on my seats.
Tyrone's this enormous fat man who just like can't get out.
He's the
He's
getaway
like,
driver.
I thought you said he was a getaway driver. What the fuck could he get away from, eh? Apologies for our British accents, by the way.
Yeah, they're going to be horrible.
Like
Our
I
Cockney
said.
accents.
It's part of the movie.
We to this day, there are lines from Snatch that I say with certain people in my life.
Dude,
like,
there
if
are
I'm
so many.
like if I'm parking and like it's a huge spot, I'll just look over and be like, "You could fit a jumbo fucking jet in there, Tyrone." And everything, yeah, everyone just can't seem to fall. Like, I love this movie because it introduces these characters as kind of like suave and cool. When you first meet all of them, you have Turkish, he's like training the boxer and he's kind of suave with his trench coat. You got Tommy with the gun. You got all these characters, but as the movie progresses, they become more and more inept to the point where you like pity them by the end of the movie. Like when
Those
they're driving,
three especially.
yeah,
are
when you're
just-
driving by, well, that's why they're like the heroes and they're the only ones that come out clean at the end.
Oh no, I meant the black guys.
Oh yeah, you feel exactly.
Like
you feel
the
bad for
comedy of
them.
errors is like so strong with them. It's just bungle after bungle, and they just get fucked. They get proper fucked.
Their story is also, if we're going to talk about the drawbacks of this movie, their story is also the most has the most errors in editing, because there's a lot of fuck ups as far as the continuity of the plot in that.
Oh really?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah,
even
there's
notice.
a couple. There's just a little like, so basically they have the diamond. Vinny has the diamond in his pants when Bullet Tooth Tony finds them in the car. So he takes them back to their hideout and tries to convince them that the dog ate the diamond. So at this point, they recognize these guys. But earlier in the movie, when he has his gun to his head, before they put the masks on with the replica guns and try to take the diamond back, you would know who that person is right away in the mask. You just put a gun to his head like a minute ago. You know what I mean? Like there's a little continuity errors as far as like characters' memories. So I think these certain scenes were shot and then they were stitched together in a way that didn't quite make sense. I think it would have been better if the scene with the replica guns was first and then they went and discovered who these guys actually were behind the masks and then XYZ. I don't know. I think it would just make a little more sense that way.
I will say one of my favorite parts about this movie, I'm also a huge, massive Attack fan.
Yes.
But it's like the best I've ever seen that song used in a film, Angel. I love how the whole movie is like light and relatively like speedy and funny, except for that scene when they burn the caravan. That's when like the movie like actually bites a little. And it goes to what you were saying, Jeff, how you were like, oh, we know that the crime world in England is actually serious. It's like that moment is like, you're like, holy fuck. And it's just that simple line. You
just burned someone's mother alive so that they'll box for you in a fixed fight.
Exactly. Like, it was just like, oh, they burned his mother's caravan down. And at first you're like, oh, okay, well, they love their caravans. That's really fucked up. And then he goes, while his mother was still in it. And you're just like, oh. Dear. So like there's some serious like it's not like people are just getting slapped up on the wrist or getting, batted away with good wit, English wit or anything like that. It's like no, it's actually like a serious story and it starts to take like a crazy turn then.
The movie does a great job in setting up how just reprehensible Bricktop is.
Oh god.
In all these different like he runs dog fights. And you see him just like jabbing this dog with a stick to get him angry.
Yeah.
But he's so likable in the same way. Like I said, not because he's a good character, but because he's a good character. You know what I mean?
It's
like he's not good.
He's played well.
Yeah, he's played well. The dialogue is amazing. You're on thin fucking ice, my pedigree chums, and I will be there underneath when you fall through it, or something like that.
Be underneath when it breaks. Now fuck off.
Underneath when it breaks. Now fuck off.
I think this is a testament to when a director really cares about writing. And then sometimes they can fall off that. And it's sad to see because Guy Ritchie wrote this movie and you can tell he really cared about creating that moment, that crescendo in the movie where it would hit the hardest because he builds you up with this funny haha, just like you're saying, Alex. And then I love that scene, and I agree. I'm also a huge Massive Attack fan, so that song was used perfectly.
Yeah.
And when they're breaking the slot machines,
oh yeah,
you already like you sympathize with Turkish. In my opinion, I sympathize with Turkish and Tommy the most. They were the characters that I felt were the most swept up in everything, and we're just trying to be low rent criminals instead of just like high range criminals. So that scene's great. You have the use of the gun coming in handy again, which is a fun little callback. And so you think that's it. Like you already feel bad. You're like, oh no, they took Turkish's money and now they're breaking his business. Like no, come on. And then it cuts to that fire, and it's so like boom, it's so jarring. And I think that's just a testament to really just great writing and timing and some of the benefits of having writer-director. Sometimes there's a lot of detriments, but I think that's a benefit because you know the timing you want on a scene, and it shows.
Yeah, that has Guy Ritchie's fingerprints all over it. Also, I mean, if you needed any more evidence that Brad Pitt is also like a very good physical actor, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
Like, great legs as well. Let me just throw that out there.
I love that scene because it's great. Because as you see, he's in a lot of pain and agony, and he's crying, and they're pulling him. But he's also very dangerous. So every time they're pulling him back, and he like throws his arms out, he turns towards them. They all back up and put their hands up. And I love that little detail because it's like, oh, like this is our friend, and he's grieving right now, but he could also like fucking kill us all with one punch.
Exactly. Conor McGregor, I have always had this theory. I'm not into UFC or MMA or fighting, but it's hard not to know who Conor McGregor is. And ever since he came on the scene, I've just always been like, oh, so like that's who you're basing your character off of. Like, that's your ethos is freaking Mickey from Snatch.
A little, yeah. I mean, there's definitely a little bit of that in his character, for sure.
That could also just be me being incredibly stereotypical, right? Like,
I
two Irish
think
guys.
I don't know. I think you could say, I think that if you said that to Connor, he might have already got that reference before.
Yeah.
And then there's a fun little fact. I forget I think his name's Liam. One of Mickey's compatriots, the main one that has the only spoken lines with the mullet.
Yeah.
Oh, Darren.
Is
That's Jason Fleming.
Yeah, that's Jason Fleming. Thank you. From
Darren.
Yeah, Darren. Thank you. From Lock, Stock, who is also fun fact. A little deep cut is the name of the Discord channel. My Discord channel is Bobby's Bits, which is a reference from Lock, Stock.
I never knew that. I never asked you either.
Yep, Bobby's Bits, my Discord channel, and it's a picture of Jason Fleming.
Yeah,
on my
okay.
Discord
Is
channel.
that what that is?
Yeah, it's a picture of
it
Jason
is.
Fleming describing that. Bobby's Bits is their racket, their dildo racket, like the best makes the best dildo you ever.
I need to see that again. I don't remember it like at all. I remembered Snatch as soon as I started Snatch. As soon as I started watching Snatch, I was like, it's just the nostalgia just flooding over me, and like hearing all these lines again. It's like a movie that my blood knows all the lines, but my brain had forgotten them.
Yeah, it's like,
you know what I mean?
It was such a perfect reference of an old song. It's like when you listen to an old song, you're like, oh wow, I actually know all the lyrics to this song still. That's a perfect way to distill how these movies feel watching again.
There are certain cadre or like set of movies that are really good at doing that. And I think it's a testament to good filmmaking and good storytelling. I mean, obviously these Lock, Stock, Snatch, Guy Ritchie is like good at that. It's like, it's a movie that stays fresh. It's a movie that stays like, I don't know. It doesn't ever really get old to me because that's not the point of the movie, right? The point of the movie is not like, oh, what's going to happen with this diamond? Another film, obviously based in the same realm or area, is Trainspotting for me. Is one that I could always kind of like tap into and be like, oh yeah, I know every single fucking scene in this movie.
Yeah, these movies age well.
The plot is there, and it's kinetic. It's always moving forward, but you almost don't care. You're just having so much fun with the characters and the dialogue. It's totally a dialogue movie. Do you think there's anything in here that hasn't aged well?
As far as like
you're setting us up, Jesse.
Or just like as far as like it hasn't really held water as being like
however you want to interpret it. However you want to interpret the question.
I think Bricktop has some questionable lines.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, he does get racist.
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, but I think I was about to disagree with that.
Fine.
This movie ages
works
really
for his
well.
character.
Yeah, it does. It's no. I have no qualms with it. But as far as aging well, this movie ages. All Guy Ritchie's movies, as far as these four, age so well that I don't really think so.
Rock and Rolla?
Rock and Rolla is amazing.
Or Revolver, which is the bad one?
Revolver's not that great, but it's still okay.
I walked out of Rock and Rolla.
Oh, you're full of shit.
Yeah, I walked out of the movie theater. I don't want to say it wasn't necessarily because it was like a bad film.
You must have got dumped or something.
No, it was like more like I could stay and watch the film, or I could go and meet up with friends. But in any other scenario, I'd be like, I'm in the middle of a fucking movie theater. I'll meet up with you guys after. But for some reason, in that movie, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll just fucking go.
I need to see it.
Chance.
I'll give you guys a book report sometime later and to see this movie.
I love it. I think it's a great...
This movie in Lock, Stock, always in my mind... I always think it's like in the same universe, even though there's so many recurring characters that are different. Like I can always just see it happening in the same universe, and I think
that could do that. Kevin Smith does that. He has dude in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Ben Affleck plays two different people.
Yeah.
So does Jason Lee in the same movie.
They talk
like,
about Ben Affleck.
If you're like not aware of who these characters are, you would be horribly confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see like Turkish is like an older version of Bacon after like the group has like
Yeah.
the group from Lock, Stock has like separated and gone their separate ways. Like Turkish ends up like becoming a boxing promoter.
Mm-hmm. I think that one thing you were saying earlier in the podcast, Jeff, when I watch Goodfellas or when I watch The Godfather, any American crime movie, I am, filled with just like a little inkling of patriotic like pride or like a glimmer of just like, ooh, this is like the essence of my nationality. And this movie, I really feel like Guy Ritchie is like, it's fair to say he's doing like a modern day almost Chaucer thing. Chaucer was kind of like, I want to create a literature and a language that represents England and like puts us forth as a formidable artistic, fountain of material.
This better be going somewhere, Alex, comparing Snatch to Chaucer.
No.
I think I totally am agreeing with this line of
so I'm saying
here,
that
so
like
keep
Guy
going.
Ritchie, it's like these movies are like, they're just full of like, I don't want to say British pride, but there's something, when I say these movies are British, it's so much more than just the accents and like the shot locations. The idea of being witty, the idea of having a villain that is so witty that he's likable and clever with his words is very British. And every single character in this movie, although it is a comedy of errors, they aren't like dumb. They're all so clever and they're all so quick with their words, which I just think is so indicative of British culture and what they hold in high regard. So, in that same vein, yes, but I'm not going to say he's Chaucer, Geoffrey Chaucer.
I think what you're trying to say is that he's able to distill what makes British culture unique in film, and then in a way that is digestible enough for American audiences. And I think a lot of what people understand about certain British mannerisms comes from Guy Ritchie movies.
Mm-hmm.
At least in America.
Maybe, yeah, people around our age who synthesized this movie when they were 15, especially.
Yes, I definitely don't think it's like every how you really narrowed that pool down for me.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. You go, woo! Let's make that funnel a little shorter.
I think one of the things that I thought watching this time, apropos things that haven't aged well, I was wondering like how I would have felt about this movie if I saw it today, like for the first time, which is impossible. But I think some of the editing and like some of the musical choices just feel a little like it's like trying just a little too hard to be edgy and cool.
Yep.
But just a little bit. Like this movie is edgy and cool and it feels very natural 95% of the time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't exactly point to a specific moment. It's just something I felt, and I wondered if you guys agreed.
100%.
I definitely agree.
And
yeah.
that's going to be true for a lot of stuff. Kind of like, obviously you can't put it in a vacuum and move it up in time. But if I'd seen this movie now, or if it had came out in theaters now, I would have been like, Guy Ritchie, why are you being so lazy? We've seen this. It's so overdone and so like overused. But it's hard because I would be saying that going back to a film like Pulp Fiction, like Lock, Stock, and Snatch. Like, those are the ones who, in my opinion, for me at least, helped establish this, like, genre in a sense. And it's like, fuck, I would be comparing it to itself. But yeah, no, if it came out today, it would be stale. Some of the edginess would get a little stale with the quick cut edits and things like that. But I think that's a testament to how good it is, because it's like,
it's been aped so much.
Yeah, exactly.
The style, the tone of it has been aped. It's definitely a weird kind of watershed kind of movie, I want to say,
Yeah,
where
that's a
like
great
you
word.
had a lot of like after Pulp Fiction or whatever, you have all these like dark comedies, these dark like crime comedies.
Mhm.
And I think that Snatch kind of reinvigorated that for a little while.
Oh, definitely.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. This movie, this movie cuts itself on its own edginess a little too much at times. But what it is it's a movie that was unique for its time period, and I can't, like you're kind of saying, it's just hard to compare. I can't really compare it if it were to come out now. I think if it were to come out now, I would really like it because there's a charm to it that I don't think ages. there's a unique charm to this movie that makes these characters lovable and cute at times. There's just kind of an affectionate cuteness to this movie. Like, you can tell Guy Ritchie wanted this movie to come across as fun and funny with a taste of dark. And I don't know, it's like this movie's like just a really well-made cake. It's not fancy, it's not fondant with like towers and everything on it. It's just a really well-made cake, and it's tasty, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, good writing, good dialogue, good performances. These things are timeless.
Yeah.
The characters are funny. It's got really top-ranking actors in it as far as like most of the performances. Even Bremner was in it for a tick, and then he was in Trainspotting. Mm-hmm. There's
Oh yeah, Spud shows up.
Yeah,
Great scene. He has a few deleted scenes as well.
With my wild tone
into the movie.
You've been brushing your teeth with dog shit, mullet.
Yeah, there's a lot of just fun to be had in this movie, and I watch it pretty often still, and I chose it for that reason. I was gonna go into Amadeus for this choice, but I thought I was watching this movie just in the background, and I was like, I think this would just be fun to watch and talk about.
We've been doing so many hefty movies.
Yeah.
I mean, after Paris, Texas 2, it was time to have a little fun.
And that's what this movie is. Like I said, it's not deep. You're not going to learn anything. You're just going to have a really good time.
Yeah.
And
it's
now,
one of my all-time favorites.
I didn't think of it like too much in line, but I have to say, after watching Inherent Vice and speaking to you guys about it, I don't know why I had that movie on my mind while I was watching this one. Something about this like frantic energy or whatever that's in Inherent Vice really is not a similar movie in any sense, but it's almost like an American version of
It's like a bonkers plot with all these fun actors showing up playing these memorable characters, and it's really funny. So I see the comparison that you're making. Definitely.
I think that it shows too that the actors actually had like lots of fun playing these roles. I feel like playing Bullet Tooth Tony would have been so amazingly fun. Like, he's so tough the whole movie until he hears Boris's name, and then he turns into like a frightful little English
Boris
boy.
the Bullet Dodger.
Yeah. Why do they call him that? Because he dodges bullets.
Dodge bullets, Evie. Also Vinnie Jones, the actor, tends to also play this character a lot.
It's a total Vinnie Jones character.
Yeah, he plays Big Chris
badass
in Lock, Stock, and it's essentially the exact same character.
There were a couple shots in here where it's somebody else, like when you see him in the car window, like the reflection, because Vinnie Jones was in jail for fighting.
Yep. Yeah, in a bar fight, and he couldn't. When he taps on their window, when they have the diamond, they're about to take it into Bricktop, and he taps on the window with the Desert Eagle. That's not him. That's his stand-in.
So he was known. I mean, he was a professional, I'll say, football player in England, since we're talking about an English movie. But he was a professional player. I think he played for Leeds United.
Yep.
And he was known. He was part of this era when the game was still like really rough. And he was known as a hard man. And he's like a goon kind of in hockey, right? Like his major role was to fuck people up. And you definitely see how that has translated into his acting career.
Yeah, it's like all he plays. All he plays is those heavy characters.
Exactly.
It's perfect for him,
No, it works really well. Yeah, Guy Ritchie really knows how to cast people well in his movies for these characters that he writes. I always feel like in all his movies, the casting is just so on point. And
I'm curious to see what he does in his later movies, because I'm not very familiar with them, but they do seem like ensemble crime capers, a decent amount of them. So I'm curious to see if he can rekindle the Snatch magic a little bit, or do something different,
Yeah, part of me feels like he is very focused on British history and British literary traditions. Like, right, he's doing Sherlock. He did King Arthur.
But he makes these movies into like big dumb action movies.
Exactly.
So they're not like smart. The Sherlock Holmes movies are not smart movies.
I was going to say, I feel like he's been trying to kind of capture the energy from Snatch and Lock, Stock, and I guess the Revolver and Rock and Rolla without totally replicating it. But part of me, like when I watched part of Arthur, Legend of the Sword, I didn't finish it, but part of me was kind of like, just go full on Guy Ritchie, like just go back to it. I totally don't mind. I don't know what it is you're trying to do, but I guess to your guys' point, it would probably get a lot older and a lot staler then, and he would be static. Guy Ritchie's kind of like one of those bands that's like, you like them, you like their first like 6 albums so much, and then they start going in a different direction. You're like, no, like, I don't want this, but
I don't want to watch Aladdin.
exactly, it'd be unfair to him to
Get
say,
out of
like,
here.
just make Lock, Stock again, like, that wouldn't be fair, but fuck, if he isn't good at it.
Yeah, I'm going to check out his new movie, Wrath of Man, I think it's called, tonight, and see what that's about. His new Jason Statham kind of crime drama.
Oh, nice. Give us a book report next time.
Yeah, I'm going to see how that is and see if it's still got the flair. But what I mean when I put those 4 movies into a category, just as a little last thing, is, Alex, I think that those 4 movies together are a representation of his struggle to capture his essence back. And that's why I grouped them together, because his other movies, obviously the ones with Madonna, but then Aladdin, these aren't Guy Ritchie movies. These are Guy Ritchie doing movies.
Yeah.
Those 4 movies are Guy Ritchie movies, because that is when you can tell he's putting his particular creative intrigue and flair into the dialogue and the writing, and you can feel it. It's palpable in his movies. And you have Lock, Stock, where he's like really figuring himself out. Mm-hmm. Still a great movie. It's probably my favorite of the 2 of Snatch, but I think Snatch is a lot more digestible.
Yeah.
And the reason I chose it is because of this reason, is that Snatch is him refining all of those tools. Okay, now I have all these tools. I know what makes me unique. I know what makes my story writing unique. Boom, Snatch. Great movie. Then he makes Revolver, which in my opinion was his worst of these 4, where he's like trying to use like Andre 3000 and some other like kind of not quite up and coming actors, but just, like they do, like it would be like doing Ludacris, when he was doing the Fast and Furious movies. It's like those kind of roles.
Yeah.
And he's putting Andre 3000 in a lead role, and it's a little dangerous, and it doesn't quite pan out, and it falls flat. And then I felt with Rock and Rolla, he was really digging in and like, what makes me good? And he pulled that out and created Rock and Rolla, which isn't nearly as good as these 2, but still captures that beauty of his kind of these intertwining characters that are fun with the nicknames and you care, and oh this guy is actually going to meet up with this guy later, and you kind of see that all coming, and he creates that with Rock and Rolla, and then he just stops and he starts making kind of just movies.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate part, is when a director puts aside their creative talent and goes, okay, I need to pay the bills because these movies don't make as much as these movies, and I have notoriety, so I can make these movies. I'm sure Aladdin wasn't creatively fulfilling, but goddamn, did it pay the bills?
Oh hell yeah!
Oh yeah, people watched it.
That fat Disney check.
Yeah.
Yeah, remake of one of the most racist things of all time.
And he's slated to do Aladdin 2.
Oh god!
Yay! More Will Smith.
Swept Away really must have just threw him. It's just like a dagger into his career somehow, like a poison dagger.
Dude, you made Snatch, and then you make Swept Away.
Yeah.
Well, it just shows that like he has the ability to switch when the money's right, or when like your wife bitches that she wants to make a movie with you.
I don't know about ability. The movie is legendarily awful.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, he made it. It is a different kind of movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's just a director that has to work. He's a working director. Like they say, working actor.
Yeah.
Like, he's definitely a working director, but he's a working director that has a unique style that is worthy of noting and talking about and shining a light on, because his movies are fun and have a place, and I believe they are kind of like a essential watch.
I like how we don't know if he still has his style or not. None of us have seen these like newer movies.
I have seen The Man from
I'm going to see tonight.
I did see The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like a spy movie, I guess, but it isn't with that snappy British kind of like affect to it. the dialogue, I guess you could say, is a little snappy. It has Henry Cavill in it and Alicia Vikander and someone else. There are other people. And it's
Armie
definitely
Hammer.
like ensemble, but I don't know.
And Elizabeth Debicki.
Oh yeah, she
From,
is in it.
Yeah, we
Tenet.
love her.
We do. She's great. Well, I've only seen Tenet, I think, that she's in, but she was one of the best parts of that movie.
It would be hilarious if we went and did see Aladdin and it was just like actually like really like good. It was just like a Disney-fied version of like his quick British snappiness. And we're like, holy shit.
Somehow I doubt it. I doubt that they allowed him to write Aladdin in the style of Lock, Stock.
Yeah.
Call me crazy.
Genie blue
I
smoke.
put money against that.
Genie's like smoking the whole time from his own tail. Yeah, no. I want to what you're saying, Alex. I definitely agree that with his newer. I definitely agree with Jesse that what you're saying, Jesse, about his newer movies and that we don't understand. And I think that the reason we don't understand about if he has has not lost is because of maybe the same reason that you asked before about what would happen if Snatch was released today. Maybe that same thing is in Guy Ritchie's mind. Like, what happens if I release another quick-witted, edgy crime comedy? Will that fall flat? Will that be stale? Can I do it in a way that's unique again? And maybe just playing it safe. So maybe we've kind of answered our own question with a question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to watch the movies to form an opinion.
Yep. Well, I'll get back to you.
All right.
I'll get back to you.
So that's Snatch. Go watch it. If you want something fun to watch Snatch.
Yeah.
It's great.
Fun little
It's,
palate cleanser movie.
It's so funny. It's quick. It's witty. It's a good old romp.
It's a movie that like your 15-year-old self would laugh to, and then your dad walks into the room and he's like 50 or something. He will also laugh. I like it as that. It's a very generationally masculine movie. You can key in on so many different themes to it.
Definitely a masculine movie.
Oh yeah, there's not a lot of ladies in it. So before we head off into the wild, great yonder on the good ship Lollipop, do you guys have any random recommendations or things you watched this week?
I'm trying to think back to anything I watched this week, and I think I don't this week. I've been a little busy with some planning for a road trip I'm going on, so I've been a little without movies. And also after the Paul Thomas Anderson binge, I kind of wanted to like take a step back from film for a few days and
makes sense.
just kind of do some other stuff. So yeah, nothing from me today, unfortunately.
All right, Alex.
Yeah, actually, I watched for like maybe the second or third time Wim Wenders' other movie that I'd known about called Wings of Desire.
That's the director of Paris, Texas.
Exactly, yeah. Definitely same type of pace, beautifully shot type thing. But
Glacial.
yeah, exactly, glacial. Maybe don't watch it like if you're, about to go to sleep or anything, but it was interesting. And while I don't like it as much as Paris, Texas, I can see that it might actually have a wider appeal. And then also I watched a movie called The Tale of Princess Kaguya, which is like a animated film from that Japanese Studio Ghibli, which is like really big. They make all the movies that all the white girls have stickers of on their cars and tattoos of. Yeah, exactly. I'm Japanese, by the way, to anyone who's listening, so I can say that. It was actually gorgeous. It's like a stripped down style. Like you see where like the watercolor brushstroke ends in some of the frames for the background and landscape, and it's like really raw drawings in some scenes, and then it gets really vibrant and beautiful. It's like a Japanese folk tale. So that was actually an interesting experience.
Was that recent? I feel like I've seen most Ghibli movies, especially, of course, the ones directed by Miyamoto. That's his name, right?
Miyazaki.
Damn it. I sounded like I was...
Is that Miyazaki's cousin, Miyamoto?
Oh, shit.
I think I was thinking about the Nintendo guy.
But it is newer.
But no, Okay. That was my question. That
And
was
it-
my circuitous question.
I don't think that it is
Circuitous. He throws in that word to make up for the mistake.
Yeah, I got to be clever, you know? People are listening to this. They're like digging on my sexy voice, these dulcet tones. They're like, oh.
Jordan Peterson, Henry David Stanton, you know.
Okay, thanks for bringing it back. All right, thanks for turning the mirror back on me, Butto.
Sorry.
I watched for maybe the first time. If I'd seen it before, I couldn't remember it. But I watched Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean,
Yeah.
1955, and it is just fantastic. He did this wild method acting thing. He was part of the new school, like coming up after Brando, and watching it is kind of heartbreaking because you can see that he could have been a Brando. I mean, it's about a kid who like has kind of emotional problems, going to a new town, and like basically getting picked on, and him fighting back. And there's a nice like love story, and he makes friends with another guy.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go too deep into it. There's cars, of course. People think of James Dean on a motorcycle. Probably he's not in a motorcycle in it, but he does drive cars. That's a really good like teen kind of Bildungsroman, like coming of age story,
Mm-hmm.
and centered around a really fantastic performance. I think he was only in 3 movies ever
He was.
before he
Yeah.
died.
I think Rebel Without a Cause and Giant came out actually after he had died. East of Eden was the only one he was alive for.
Yeah, which is crazy. You can't even imagine the life he would have had. Just every woman in the world throwing themselves at him.
And him being like, well, I don't like girls, so too bad.
Oh, did he not?
You know, there's like a pretty like well-known rumor that apparently he was molested when he was a younger boy by his
fuck.
priest in his hometown, but he actually did have relationships with men. I read a biography where they had a few nudies in there that he would send to other actors and whatnot, and then I'm pretty sure that Pierre Angeli was a woman like he was engaged to, and it was like set up by Hollywood, right? Because they're like, you can't be gay, so we need to make this marriage work.
Yeah, he could not be gay in Hollywood at this point. Just
No.
drove Montgomery Cliff off the wagon.
Yeah.
Well, that
Rock
car
Hudson
accident.
was also in one of those like fake marriages, but it was well known that he was also homosexual. And him and Dean worked together on Giant. Apparently they fucking hated each other. So
It's always funny when actors are like their chemistry on screen. They're forced to be with each other, and then you read that they just hated each other.
yeah.
Like Harrison Ford and who was the girl in Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner? Who was
Oh,
the actress?
Sean Young.
Sean Young. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just despised each other. But I digress. Rebel Without a Cause, really good.
Yeah.
And Snatch, really good. Thanks for tuning in, and we will be back next week.
Thanks everybody.
Have a good night, y'all.
Chicka chaka chapo. Now our podcast is done, and we have to run. We know it is sad, but we had so much fun. Don't be bereft, Jesse, Alex, and Jeff. We'll be back real soon. The Reel Weirdos. We talk about movies for way too goddamn long. Bo 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 bo.